see forever. For what is done today never really fades away. Don't you worry about the weather. I'll rage on through the storm. Oh, and shed your skin today. Though the rain wash away. Oh, come on, look inside. Everybody just get in line. No, nothing's free but you and me. But we fight and we lie and we destroy what we believe. While you're worried about your deity, here I am, just worried about you and me. Yeah, while you're worried about your deity, here I am, just worried about you and me. No, I scream and you're screaming, we stand for nothing. Yeah, I scream and you're screaming, we all want morphine. Oh, kill those dreams. Oh, I can see, yeah, but I just don't believe. And if I were you and you were me, maybe we could just get together and you would see. Oh, we're all the enemy. And while you're worried about your deity, here I am, just worry about you and me. And while you're worried about your deity, here I am, take a good look at you and me. Oh, why can't you see? You and me. While you're worried about your deity, here I am, take a good look at you and me. Oh, it's all you know, it's no surprise, all their bullet holes full of lies. Oh, it's all you know, it's no surprise, all their bullet holes full of lies.
Your love is my drug. I get high and can't get enough. You make me feel like a fiend. It's your skin and your touch. Must be a sin if I like it this much. It's the best that I've ever seen. You're all I need. The blood in my veins and the air that I breathe. You're all I need to get by. When you bleed, I bleed. I feel what you feel and I see what you see. It's your love that gets me so high. It gets me so high. Your love gets me so high. Your love gets me so high. Your love gets me so high. Sell everything I own without hesitation. of my dreams and my imagination. Yet I just can't seem to shake this stone. Your love is my drug. I get high and can't get enough. You make me feel like a fiend. It's your skin and your touch. Must be a sin if I like it this much. It's the best that I've ever seen. You're all I need. The blood in my veins and the air that I breathe. You're all I need to get by. When you bleed, I bleed. I feel what you feel and I see what you see. It's your love that gets me so high. It gets me so high. Your love gets me so high. Gets me so high. Your love gets me so high. If you show me all your flaws, girl, I will show you mine. Spend too much time in the bars, girl. Too many pills and too much wine. Show me that light that leads back to you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is that why you are here?
And finally, Cyber Skull Media has come back to the internet. After a long absence, we've had things to do, people. We've had things to do. How are y'all doing? This is the Cyber Skull Lounge. We haven't done a movie discussion in a hot minute. I am one of your hosts, Son Darius, and I am joined by my epic co-hosts up here above me.
Shades.
And
Crude.
let's go. It's going to be a good night tonight. We haven't been on for a minute. We had the King ISO show on 420. As you can see, you know, it was a good show. It was an absolute blast. Maybe we'll have to talk about it on our anniversary stream.
Banger.
It was so much fun. People got to go up on stage, and we may have someone on the show in the future that may have been there that night. So
A few people probably.
maybe
Oh.
That's top secret information. But as a lot of you know, I just got back today from being in Kansas City for the NFL draft. Let's go. Let's go.
I didn't. I didn't get an
Me
invite.
either. Yeah. Didn't even know until he was gone.
Yeah, I just came home and I was like, all by myself.
Don't wanna be.
I had to seize the opportunity, okay?
By yourself. You know. Just kidding.
Yes, but it was a blast. I got tons of footage to comb through, and I'm going to be dropping a video here at some point because there's a lot to go through. So I'll be telling my experience at the draft and showing you a bunch of the stuff I recorded because there is a lot to go on there, and there were thousands of people, and I almost died, and I almost got lost in Kansas City. So with that being said, that's not what we're here for tonight. What are we here for tonight? What are we here for tonight, boys?
I don't know.
Well, I don't
something.
know. Sounds like you're a little dazed and confused about it.
All right.
All right.
The only clip
Be a
I
lot
have
cooler
tonight,
if you did know.
right? The only what's up? The only clip I have for tonight, because every clip I wanted to take from this movie had some sort of 1970s copyrighted music in the background, and I was not going to roll those dice. So here's the one clip we've got for tonight that themes the month appropriately.
Marijuana on one. Reefer on two.
That was it. That's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. Except for, if you notice that slick ass intro that I put together, I've got another one for the outro that actually has some speeches that I already ran through the copyright system that said we can use them. So you'll have to hang on and check that out. So now that we're getting into this, if you want to tip for Hot Shots tonight, those are a go. Those are $10 a piece.
So,
And rocket fuel, $20. Now, Shades, what do you got to say, sir?
couldn't you just like speed up or slow down the audio of the music and it'd be, not the same song, so no copyright?
That's one of those things that's like really controversial because I've seen people do it, and I've always
It
wondered,
depends. The outro, I fucked with the audio and I dropped the voice and it still got claimed. And I have, stuff running over it, film grain, and in this all, but I'm transforming it as I'm posting it in the intro and the outro stuff. So that lends credence to us being able to use it because we're transforming the content and not just showing the whole movie or full ass scenes or stuff like that. So
I think the other way to get around like showing too much video would just be drop the quality.
yeah, but
Again, it's no longer the same movie.
yeah, it's just it was not worth all that work for a few seconds of clips that
Yeah. Dundie's all about his quality. It's,
Quality,
you can't drop quality with Dundee.
I mean, I get
It
it.
ain't 4K. It just ain't right. You gotta get it out of here.
I get it. I'm Captain OCD when it comes to concrete. So like,
Oh yeah, dude. I get it.
Gotta do it right. You're gonna do it at all. So, yes. Yes, besides Hot Shots, we are now. Let me show you one
thanks, Leafy.
image here. We are now 6 subscribers away from 350.
Yes.
We are at 344. If we hit 350, we will eat this live on our anniversary stream next month.
Oh man.
Live. So, share our shit.
We'll see.
Get us to 6 more subscribers, and we're gonna pull this off at the end of next month.
Like, share, subscribe. Help us out.
By now, it's got to be like way worse than what it would have
yeah,
been
we've
if we
had
would
this
have had all
can-
these.
Oh god,
For
yeah.
over a year. It's awful. And
This is gonna be stupid.
jalapenos, habaneros, ghost peppers, viper peppers, Carolina
We still don't even
Reapers?
know about the dragon's breath. Like,
Dragon's breath peppers.
all we know is we have it.
Yeah, we haven't tried it yet.
That's all we know. It exists and it's in our hands.
That's what she said.
I'm gonna come.
All right, so without further ado, our movie this evening is Dazed and Confused. It is definitely a cult fan favorite. And give me
what's
some
a
brief
cult?
experience. Like, what is your experience with this movie? Maybe when the first time you watched it, or if there's anything about this movie before we dive into it that speaks to you. Maybe a favorite character if you've got one. What are you guys' initial thoughts on this film?
Got some shades? Got some? This?
No, I mean, just crazy. Just the people like drinking all over the place. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Kids buying beer.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Kids getting
like
beat up.
one
Yeah,
Nobody cares.
beating the fudge out of them. Nobody cares.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's like a thing.
It's gonna
You know,
happen.
it's like,
It's gonna happen.
The parents
This is what
is
happens.
like, you better run. You better run.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
I mean, they're gonna
my
get you
experience-
anyway. So
It's kind of weird because it's one of those movies that like I always enjoyed it, but I never thought of it as like a favorite, you know, or something like that. So kind of hard to remember like when I actually watched it the first time or something like that. But I do remember there's always those movies where like when someone says a line, you know what movie it's from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those lines were always in my life. And I think that's what this movie brought to that. Well, obviously some we'll probably discuss more, but that's really what I remember about the movie. I mean, that's what it brought to my life is like, you just take that stuff from this movie in particular.
So everybody can gasp in a collective. I used to not, I don't know. I watched this movie once years ago, but it was after high school. It was at a weird time in my life. Watched it and I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. I didn't understand why people liked it. I just walked around not wanting to watch it. And then Shades is like, I was like, you know what movies should we cover for April? And he goes, Dazed and Confused. He didn't even have to think about it. So I was like, all right, I don't remember liking this movie, but this is what Shades wants. He's never like, this is what I want to do with the channel. Let's do this. So I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing.
Now
So
you
I
have
watched
to.
it and I was like, why did I not like this? I love this movie. And then the more I dug into behind the scenes and the production, and I watched the making of documentary, which I highly recommend if you like this movie. It's like 45
there's
minutes
a
long.
making of this.
It's on
And I
YouTube and it's fantastic.
think I appreciate it more now because
Absolutely.
I know the actors from other movies now, especially, and then going back and seeing them in this movie is just hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it helps you appreciate the movie more
Yeah,
and how it was like got started for all these actors and stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah, my
Like, I can see if you
appreciation.
can appreciate it or like it more now, I guess is what
Absolutely. I after just digging into it and finding out more about it, I appreciate it so much more. Like, I love this movie now. And yeah, I'm always going to be down to watch this movie. So, you guys have anything else before we dive into the production here? All right, well, so for those who are unaware, this coming of age film follows the mayhem of a group of rowdy teenagers in Austin, Texas, celebrating the last day of high school in 1976. The graduating class heads for a popular pool hall and joins an impromptu keg party. However, star football player Randall Pink Floyd, played by Jason London, has promised to focus on the championship game and abstain from partying, or has he? Meanwhile, the incoming freshmen try to avoid being hazed by the seniors, most notably the sadistic bully, Fred O'Banion, played by none other than Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
hey,
Hey,
Ben Affleck.
Would you say Jason London? Landon?
Jason London.
His dad on Little House on the Prairie?
I have no idea.
Am I thinking right?
I don't.
I gotta look into that. Didn't even think
Yeah. Little House
Anyways,
on the Prairie. She shades you're old.
Shut up.
Shane's over here derailing Dazed Confused for Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
You're fired.
That one
Go on,
doesn't fit
go on.
April.
So this movie was released in September the 24th of 1993. So it's a period piece. The writer and director, Richard Linklater, Mr. Dick Linklater. This was actually his second film. His first film was called Slacker. Some of his other films include School of Rock and A Scanner Darkly, which are both great films and completely different films.
Isn't School of Rock with Jack Black?
Yes, and A
Okay.
Scanner Darkly is that weirdly animated one with Keanu. Pretty good too. Something of note that he said while I was watching the making of was he said all the best lines, because he wrote and directed, he said all the best lines of Dazed were kind of in the margins, meaning lots of the best lines from the movie were improvised or created outside of the initial script by either cast members or people a part of the production. So like, it's kind of interesting watching it back and realizing most of the iconic lines that we all quote or remember are impromptu. They're just, or the cast created them themselves from something that they were into at the time or watching or for their character.
And for me, I think that's because some of the funniest stuff happens in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to like think like what's funny and then sit there and write something that's just funny. You know what I mean? Like, without being like, oh, you know, it'd be funnier, like as you're doing it or something like that. So
Yeah.
So I can see
And
how
I got
that's a thing.
more examples of that later on in the show. I really became, I grew a great appreciation for the director too after hearing how it all went behind the scenes, because him and the producer were butting heads like the whole time. You know, because the producer's trying to rein him in for the studio and he's like, I have a fucking vision. But initially, this idea came from wanting to create an American Graffiti, but for the 70s. Some quotes that I've got here where I want to make this teenage rock and roll spree. I knew I wanted the story to take place on one day in the spring of 1976, but at one point it was much more experimental. The whole movie took place in a car with the characters driving around listening to ZZ Top. How much different would the movie be if that's all it was?
It would be a lot different, actually.
And that kind of explains the ZZ Top in the car when our boy Matthew McConaughey's riding around. Lee Daniel, the director of photography, described the concept. It would have been two shots, one of a guy putting in an 8-track of ZZ Top's Fandango and one of two guys driving around talking. The film would have been the length of an actual album, so you'd hear each track in the background as a source. Eventually, Linklater decided to write a script to represent different points of view, the first draft of which took a month to complete. Universal Studios fast-track production, jumping ahead of 30 other films which were in development at the time.
Well,
Right?
now, was that because they thought this was going to be something awesome, or was this like a get this over with, get it out? I have promises to fulfill.
Well, like, you know, American Graffiti was a big movie, so they were thinking they had another big, you know, high school teen hit on their hands, even though they weren't very popular at the time. Linklater also described his intent to create an inverse John Hughes film. He said the drama is so low key because he doesn't remember teenagers being that dramatic. I remember just trying to go with the flow, socialize, fit in and be cool. The stakes were really low. To get Aerosmith tickets or not, that's the big thing. It was really rare when the star-crossed lovers from the opposite side of the tracks and the girl gets pregnant and there's a car crash and somebody dies. That didn't really happen much. Riding around and trying to look for something to do with the music cranked up, now that happened a lot. Feels like a little bit more of a grounded reality for a high school film.
Back
from
in
that
my
time.
day, that's exactly what we did. I remember one night, you know, and you're just like,
And I'm sorry, DGZ, I can't help with the bot. It didn't wake up. You gotta go rage at Streamlabs for that.
Rage
Now-
Streamlabs.
He also said that I didn't want it to be this fond look at, oh, what a great era. If only we could return to that time. Like, this was a shitty time. It's a crummy time if you're a teenager. It's tough no matter when or where. It's always going to be difficult. Which is true. You go through a lot of shit as a teenager. Your brain's forming. You're trying to figure all this shit out. People are dicks and like to beat you up with paddles. Sage is always trying to twist your nipples.
Hey, mind your business.
That did happen.
And then the last little quote here about the origins of the film was someone said it was rated R, not for anything gratuitous, not for anything even obvious, just because life was R rated. Like, there's no like nudity in this, you know. There's a lot of cussing, and like that seems to be a theme with our movies. Is we pick all these that have lots of cussing, and people don't like it because there's lots of cussing.
I'm like,
I mean, you
drug
could watch the
usage,
edited
drinking and
version.
driving.
Yeah. Now where was this
Like, oh,
film? Where do you guys think this was filmed? We talked about where it
California.
takes place. Okay, I think it was in California. What about you, Shades?
Probably somewhere in Texas because I looked up some stuff about like. Can I say moon tower?
Yes.
I looked up some stuff about moon towers.
Yeah, what'd you find out about the moon towers, Shades? I can pull it up. I know all about the moon towers. So before we get into moon towers, this film was primarily filmed all around Austin, Texas, with Robert E. Lee High School and Williams Middle School being the schools. There's stuff you can look up, like the burger place is still there, but it's like under completely different management now. As far as I'm aware, it's still there. But the moon tower, there's some really fun facts about those moon towers. So the moon tower in Dazed and Confused was a prop constructed for the film, but it was based on the distinctive moonlight towers that light up the night around Austin. Austin purchased these electric light towers from Detroit in 1894, and today Austin's the only town with operating moon towers. The 17 towers that still stand have become an iconic part of the city, and there's a documentary called The Last of the Moonlight Towers that you could check out if you are more interested in the mythos surrounding those. They just took an iconic landscape piece, scaled it down, and put it in their movie. They're just like, this would be a cool spot for them to hang out.
I just like to say, yep, that's what I looked up.
Now the
Hit
music.
hit the nail on the head. Yep.
There you go. Chase is always right. Look at that. This guy. So the music,
This
everybody
guy.
remembers that this movie has a great fucking soundtrack. They wanted music that was completely from the 70s, so that it was themed correctly. The soundtrack was released on September 28th, 1993 by the Medicine label, and consists of hit songs, mostly rock, from the 70s. The songs Hurricane by Bob Dylan and Hey Baby by Ted Nugent and Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith were also included in the film, but not on the commercial soundtrack. The Alien song, For Those Who Listen, by Mila Jovovich was briefly performed by her character, but was not included in the soundtrack either. The record company also attempted to get up-and-coming band Jackal to do a cover of Grand Funk's We're an American Band to play over the end credits, but the director refused. Authentic or not at all. Linklater originally wanted Led Zeppelin song Rock and Roll for the movie playing during the end credits, but he didn't get it. But Jimmy Page agreed for Linklater to use the song, but Robert Plant said absolutely not.
There's a whole bunch of no's in there.
Yep.
Exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, welcome to Hollywood or whatever. Not without my money.
So the cast of this film is where we've got a pretty solid meat of our conversation tonight, along with the fun facts in a little while. The cast of this film, teen films were out at the time. There was no real teen stars, and Linklater said if we were to do it today, it'd be saturated with WB kind of TV actors getting their first movie and things like that. We couldn't have gone with the non-names. That a lot of people in Dazed were people they plucked out of obscurity in Austin. So yeah, that's something we were talking about before stream. Like, most of this cast were people that were just living in Austin, whether they were random people off the street or like Matthew McConaughey were in film school, or if they were trying to be an actor. Like, most of the characters in this movie, they just grabbed out of Austin. Most of them weren't professional actors. And as we'll find out shortly, Matthew McConaughey was not originally cast in this film. But before we get to that, a cool fun fact I found was that the director sent the actors a care package ahead of time with mixtapes of music from the time that was specifically themed for each character to outline exactly how he wanted each character to be. So each of the cast got a mixtape with music that their character would listen to get them in the right headspace to play those characters. I thought that was super fucking cool. Like, here's a mixtape.
That would, I mean, honestly, if you want to know about somebody, you can plug in their music and find out quite a bit about them.
Absolutely. Like, all Shade listens to is polka. So it influences every part of his lifestyle, as you can tell.
Yeah.
This is blasphemy. Like,
he's always walking around just poking things.
Oh man.
you should see me in my lederhosen.
The clogs. That's great.
Now we'll pull up and we'll mention some of the cast here, and then we'll go into some of the alternative castings and interesting things that happen between the casts themselves. So as we stated, Jason London plays Randall Pink Floyd. He is our main character who and go away. Who is our main character that we follow throughout this movie that doesn't want to sign his pamphlet or his signature on the sheet of paper saying he won't do drugs, he won't drink, he won't party, he won't take part in things that jeopardize the football team. And like, looking at it from an adult perspective, you're like, well, that kind of makes sense. You don't want your all-star quarterback getting in trouble with the law, and then you guys can't play the national championship. But on the same time, you agree with the kid going, I don't want to be told what to do. I'm going to do this on my terms or not at all. That's also how Shades lives his life. Why he listens to so much polka.
Yeah, it's literally just because
I'll give it that.
Rain.
Then we've got Joey Lauren Adams, who plays Simon Kerr, and that's one of, I don't know, I could never tell if they were actually like together or not, or what the deal was, but she was one of the popular girls.
Yeah,
We had
one of the what, 2, 3.
Yeah, there was a handful of them. Then we got Mila Jovovich, who plays Michelle Burrows, who's one of the Stoners and plays guitar. And we also know her from, as you can see, The Fifth Element. I should probably not be showing any of that footage.
Yeah, I was like, meh. Shh, I'm busy.
But everyone knows Mila
Resident Evil
from The Fifth Element and Resident Evil, because she was married to the director.
Yeah.
And although they don't follow the games at all, they are entertaining. But
Yeah.
she was supposed to be in this a little bit more and was not. And we'll get into that shortly. But she's one of the more recognizable faces from this film. Go backwards. Then we got Sean Andrews, who plays Kevin Pickford, which I can't pull up the right photo. Then I believe, isn't that the one who had the party house that got shut down? Who was kind of like the dealer who was dating Mila?
Kevin, yes.
I think so. Yes,
I
it
believe
was.
so. Yeah, no pictures on here of him there, but I believe that is. Then we've got Rory Cochrane, who played Ron Slater, the burnout stoner with the long hair that might be a fan favorite alongside McConaughey.
Yeah. The aliens, man.
He does not act anymore. Most of these, a lot of these actors don't act anymore, and this was maybe even their only project, but he was definitely a blast in the movie. We got Adam Goldberg, Mike Newhouse, which is one of our viewers' favorites from the film. He was one of the nerds that wanted to go get into a fight.
Yeah, he just didn't want to be pushed around anymore.
I don't know if I want to be a lawyer. I fucking hate people.
I fucking hate people, but I don't want to save these people. That was great.
I could have liked to see him more in the movie, but his character was fun.
Yeah, it was okay.
The little group of nerds, it was cool seeing like the little groups and how they all moved around on their own and got together and acted.
It's funny because like you see, we use that, you know, like nerd or like smart kids or whatever, but they weren't like, those three necessarily weren't like, yeah, okay, nerds, you could use that, I guess. Smart, you know, like just unpopular basically, but
Right.
they're still pretty, I don't know, especially besides
And
him that's just like freaking out.
His buddy was played by Anthony Rapp, Mr. Tony
Yeah.
Olson. And he was one of the only actors that had any actual acting experience from like theater and things like that before
Yeah.
being cast in this movie. All right, peace out, man. And he had a pretty good performance, I thought.
Yeah, he did.
We have Sasha Jensen, Mr. Don Dawson, who was one of the main guys, football players that you see throughout most of the movie.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Miss Cynthia Dunn by Marissa Ribisi. He was the other smart girl or whatever, the redhead, right? That was gonna hook up with Mr. Matthew McConaughey. But
It was. They don't look alike. They don't. That doesn't strike me as the same person.
Which one was Sasha?
huh?
Don Johnson. Don Dawson.
Tom Dawson.
But we just talked about Don Dawson.
Yeah. Which one was he?
He was one of the football players that's hanging out throughout the movie. He has longer hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go through all of these, but I will go touch on Mr. Ben Affleck. We all know Mr. Ben Affleck, the greatest Batman of all time. He was a great bad guy in this movie, and he actually was pretty upset that like everyone else became like beloved like characters, and everybody hated his character.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one really to hate in this whole movie.
He's like the biggest dick out of all of them.
Besides maybe the dad that busted up the party.
Yeah.
Gets a shotgun pulled on him.
Dude, you can imagine back then that stuff happened like regularly. You know, get off my lawn. Everybody in Austin, Texas has a shotgun. I promise.
Right. And then, well, we got Parker Posey. She played Darla Marks. She was the mean girl.
Oh my gosh. See, she's the one. Like, I don't even mind Ben Affleck, but I hate her and her character.
Yeah, there we go. Aaron. She did very well at her part. Very well at her part. She was fun to watch. She was actually supposed to have a scene with Simone because they became friends behind the scenes and they didn't have a scene together. And so the director let them write a scene for themselves, and he tried to get it into the final cut, but he just had to take it out to get it down to the right runtime. And he was like, it hurt to take this out. I've got some more on it, my notes later, but I thought it was an interesting that he was like letting people write lines and come up with scenes and things like that. So then let's see, where's Mitch?
Matthew
Where
McConaughey?
is Mitch? I was saving him for last. We got Wiley Wiggins,
There you go.
who played
The other what I
the
consider
kid.
main character.
And this is the only movie he's ever been in. He went out to Hollywood to try to do the acting thing, and it just didn't work out and wasn't for him. And he
It's
was just
probably
some
like-
random kid.
First movie, got my ass beat. That's it.
Like, I ain't doing this again. But yeah, the casting director ever just saw him. This kid was just walking down the street. He left a coffee shop, was just walking down the street, hanging out, doing whatever, and some dude just walked up to him and said, "Hey, you want to be in a movie?" and handed him a flyer for a casting auditions, and that's how he
funny.
got cast.
And
So-
I
so
can't
he
tell. Go ahead.
You go.
I can't tell with him and his acting if it's shitty acting or awkward character.
Right? Like, I enjoyed his acting because it made him this awkward teenager.
That's what
That
I mean. Like,
fit
I want to
the
know
role.
if that's how it was supposed to be and he just had exceptional acting to be that. Or was it just really shitty acting that turned into, like,
Well,
hate his
he
character?
himself
You know what
was
I mean?
like, I didn't have I wasn't good enough at acting to be an actor.
Right.
But I think he did well in this movie. So what
Yeah.
were you saying,
Yeah.
Shane?
Oh, I'm,
So did he go to Hollywood before or after this movie?
After this movie.
after.
No,
Yeah.
he was just some random kid in Austin, Texas that they were like, "Hey, want to be in a movie?"
And then he was like, oh, maybe I could do this. I'm going to go try.
And he wasn't the only one of the cast. The other girl that was hanging out with the nerds that was like his age, that she or a freshman or whatever, you know, she tried to go out there and do the acting thing too, but then it was like, it's not for me, and started working with a bunch of nonprofits and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Like, actually became a hippie. No, I'm just kidding.
And then everybody's favorite Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, boy.
And this man was not meant to be in this film, and those details we will get to here shortly, because it's time to move into the rest the rest of the show, the rest of the casting. So we just went through the cast that made it to the movie. Now, there were some potential alternate castings that could have drastically changed this film. Vince Vaughn was almost cast as Ben Affleck's character. But Linklater put it, Ben was smart and full of life. You don't cast the unappealing person, you cast the appealing person. You could derive from that what you will. I like Vince Vaughn. But there was also this, like, they were really similar, and they just, you know, the personality wise is, even though they were playing a dick, they're like, we want someone who doesn't come off as a dick.
All right.
To play this dick. Would have been weird seeing Vince Vaughn instead of Ben Affleck.
Mm-hmm.
Other young actors considered for roles included Elizabeth Berkley, Mira Sorvino, Ashley Judd, Brendan Fraser, Jon Favreau, Ron Livingston, and Claire Danes. Casting director Don Phillips said, "We wanted Claire Danes for the girl, but she was too young. She couldn't leave school." Renee Zellweger has a non-speaking role in the film, but was originally considered for the part of Darla, which went to Parker Posey instead. Linklater said Parker was just crazier.
Which I believe.
She got that crazy eyes. She got that crazy look. Like, if you cheat on me, I will stab you and I will key your car. They just like
Makes
just
sense.
my type. Wiley Wiggins was the big find in Austin, according to Linklater. The Mitch, he said he described him as a 15-year-old with all the bad habits of a grad student, smoking cigarettes, hanging out at coffee shops, my kind of guy. He was just wandering aimlessly down the drag, and someone walked up and asked if he wanted to be in a movie.
That's so awesome.
Like, this 15-year-old, he just outed him for smoking cigarettes and hanging out at coffee shops.
A little
Some of the
gangster.
roles, hell yeah, he was a little gangster. There's more on him here shortly. Some of the roles, which were intended to be larger, were reduced. The Kevin Pickford character, played by Sean Andrews, that we were discussing, was meant to be a larger role. But due to his behavior with other cast members, Pickford's screen time was cut in favor of Matthew McConaughey's character, Wooderson. Linklater recalled there was an actor, Sean Andrews, who was kind of the opposite of McConaughey. He wasn't really getting along with anybody. I could tell the actors weren't responding to him. And he said he later had to break up a fight between Andrews and our lead, London. On screen, the two characters barely speak to each other during the whole film. And that's why. Because they got into a fight and no one liked him. Mila Jovovich, who played Michelle, Pickford's girlfriend, had her role reduced because, in Linklater's words, it didn't really gel. Now, are we ready for the McConaughey story?
Ow.
Sure.
So McConaughey was not originally cast in this film, as the role of Wooderson was originally small and meant to be cast locally for budget purposes. He was a film student at the University of Texas in Austin and went out drinking with his girlfriend one night. They ended up at the Hyatt Hotel bar since his friend was a bartender there and could get them a discount. He approached the casting director, Phillips, in the bar. Phillips recalls, the bartender says to him, "See that guy down there? That's Don Phillips. He cast Sean Penn in Fast Times." And Matthew goes, "I'm going to go down and talk to this guy." I can't do a McConaughey impression, so it's not happening. Phillips also recalls that Linklater didn't like McConaughey at first because he was too handsome. Much of the Wooderson role was improvised or written on the spot, giving McConaughey more screen time. McConaughey and Phillips said that we did not talk at all about movies. We didn't talk about anything but golf, girls, and booze. We just had ourselves a good old boy kind of time.
That's funny.
He just walked up. said, how we doing? Had a beer and started talking about golf, girls, and booze. And he's like,
He's
I like you.
You're in.
I dig your vibe. You want to be in a movie? And then everyone liked him so much, and he kept having ideas, and they're like, his part became, ironically, the most memorable character that people quote from the movie. And none of that was originally intended or in the script at all.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine the movie without him. You know what I mean? Like what?
Right? Just some random dude with barely any lines. It's this character.
You think about it, like he brings in the party, you know, at the thing. He gets the or he's off to get the tickets. Like, dude, it's crazy. Like the whole movie basically becomes his movie after a while.
Just the back and forth and the, hey kid, got a joint? Be a lot cooler if you did. And like I said before the stream, I wanted to play that during the stream, but it's got ZZ Top in the background, so could do that.
What's that guy say about him ending up in jail? Because he's like, them high school girls. He's like, you're gonna end
Best
up in
thing
jail.
about high
time.
school girls, I keep getting older, they stay the same age. I am quoting a movie. Do not take this out of context.
Right.
They're like, man,
Right.
you're gonna
In the
end up
movie.
in jail.
In the movie. He
In
says.
the movie. It's like, in Minecraft.
The other part too is like, don't you like kind of fetch out that he's a dropout and then he went to work for the city or whatever? Because he was talking about going back to school.
out.
So like, who knows how old he is? I don't know, but they're clearly saying that he's older.
Right.
Is that
like,
when
he's
they're at the
meant to be
drive-thru, like, you know
older.
how old that guy is? He graduated. We were like 3 or whatever. I was like, yeah.
Drops out,
that's
goes
funny.
to work for the city, but is the envy of everyone and the friend to everyone.
The other part
great.
is the cars.
The
That
cars are
movie.
fantastic.
Like that time era just is, I don't know.
What do you think
Crazy.
about Mr. McConaughey, old shadesy boy?
Great actor. I don't even know.
That is,
He's very particular though. Like it's just him. Not so much. Not a character. It's just him.
And he's one of those that like kind of like Ryan Reynolds. That's almost always playing himself.
Yeah.
Unless you've got like Texas, Dallas Buyers Club is one that he is not himself. You've got those few movies, but yeah, he's just like
because that's what people want to see. You
Oh.
know what I mean? Like they want to see him.
He's a great fucking actor, man. I like watching his films.
Yeah.
And who knows if we would have ever have gotten a single McConaughey film if he hadn't have just went to that hotel bar because his buddy worked there at the same time Don Phillips was sitting down there having a drink.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, you said something about he was going to the school for acting and stuff, right? So who knows? what would've
University of
happened.
Texas, yeah, for film.
But yeah, I mean, you don't put him in Dazed Confused and people didn't love him like they did. And believe me, I think that his mindset and his attitude and the way that the type of person he is, I think he would have been fine. You know what I mean? I think he would have probably done it no matter what. But
I mean, but at the
these are
same
the types
time,
of movies.
I think that he would have got a movie deal eventually. I mean, once people would have seen him driving a Lincoln car around.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Just had to
But
get
I'm
in front of
saying,
the
like-
right people.
Right. I mean, when you look at this movie, there are so many big names in this movie, so you have to chalk it up to this movie put some people on. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
there's no way to not think that, like you're looking at it and
Most
you're
of
like,
the actors, all randoms, this is their first movie ever.
right.
And how
That's what I'm
many of
saying,
them went
like,
on
this-
to do more? Wild.
But they probably wouldn't have done, without the movie. Like, acting wasn't going to be a thing. And then all of a sudden they're like,
No.
maybe I could do this. Like, which is kind of like when you say that, Dazed and Confused looks like a very well produced movie. So to be like, oh, we just pulled people off the street, like no one stands out like they weren't an actor or wanted to be there for an acting, like, you know what I mean, like audition.
Right. If you didn't know that, you would just think this is just a regular Hollywood movie
Right.
with regular casting calls made in Hollywood.
Where they
and,
chose
you know,
from 30 to 40 people for a role, and it wasn't just a, hey man, you want to be in a movie? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right, like that all these actors that we know now that are big were already something at that time, and then no, it wasn't a thing. There were no
Well, I
like
think that-
big name hits at that time at that age range, so they're like, we'll make them ourselves.
right, and you may have more on this, but think of what that did for your budget too.
Yep,
You know what I mean? So
it's actually next.
yeah, I was gonna say you probably have something on this, but
Well, that's a good
Definitely
segue. The cost to make this film, $6.9 million, which in
Jesus.
today's movies is like, that is nothing. You got all these summer
Right.
blockbusters with multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars
I mean,
budget.
most of that was probably trash cans and mailboxes. So
It only grossed, though, around $8 million. So it was considered a commercial disappointment because that also doesn't factor in marketing. Grossing less than $8 million. It was later found a success on home video when it became a cult classic, because then everybody saw it. Because the studio did not care for the movie. So they shrank the release from being as wide as it should have been, so less people even went out to see it. It's like, yeah, let's shoot
Right, which-
ourselves in the foot even more.
right, which in turn it maybe cost movie to release it lighter. You know, I mean, like, but you would think that would cost you less money for more eyes to see it. Like, that'd be kind of weird to figure that out, really. You know, how much money it costs you just to show it in more theaters around the world. Like, you think it would just, theaters would want to show it, you know, being a new movie out and stuff like that. So, a little weird to shrink that release cost, like, thinking of it as being cost effective. Like, that's just weird to me.
Right.
But, hey, man, that's why I'm not in that position, eh?
In spite of this,
That's why they make the big bucks.
yeah.
That's true.
In spite of this, you know, it didn't really win many awards, but it's got quite a legacy. It's ranked third on Entertainment Weekly's list of the 50 best high school movies in 2006. It also ranked it 10th on its funniest movies of the past 25 years list. Quentin Tarantino included it on his list of 10 greatest films of all time in the 2002 Sight and Sound poll.
I can see that.
If Tarantino
see
says that,
Tarantino
then it's
loving
got to
this.
be good.
Right? We're Tarantino fans on this channel, so if you don't like Tarantino, you could get the fuck out. No, I'm just kidding. You can still
Like,
hang
he's
out.
fucking weird.
Go talk shit. He's definitely super fucking weird. I mean, who films themselves? Who stars themselves in the movie? Brings in Salma Hayek, and then has her run a champagne luge down her body, down her foot into your mouth because you're into feet and Salma Hayek. Man's a
Right.
fucking genius, but that's weird as
Yeah.
shit.
He's like, man, you know what? I'm really into this. I'm going to use my director skills to put me in a position of where I want to be. Sounds like Quentin Tarantino to me.
Yeah.
He looks over at his buddy and he's like, "Hey, make you a bet."
Yeah, yeah. And then he gets it done and he's like, pay up, fool.
He's like,
Told you
God
I'd
damn
get
it.
it."
Because that's not fair. You directed it. You could tell everyone what to do. But she could have said no, and I could have cast someone else.
He's like, here's $25,000. What do you think now? Just for this scene. Anyway,
Yeah, it
Dazed
became a cult
Confused.
classic. It's become a cult classic. Most people who bring up this movie love this movie, can quote this movie.
Oh,
The
dude.
film received positive reviews from critics. Rotten Tomatoes, it currently has a 92% approval rating with a weighted average of 7.9 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, featuring an excellent ensemble cast, a precise feel for the 70s, and a killer soundtrack, Dazed and Confused is a funny, affectionate, and clear-eyed look at high school life. Are we done, Kitty?
Oh, he's having it, dude. I could hear him.
He's like, pay attention to me.
Yeah, I just woke up. Look at me.
I just woke
Look
up.
at me.
You've been gone for 2 days. Give me love, but only the way I want it. Metacritic provides a score of 78 of 100, including generally favorable reviews. And our constantly quoted film critic Roger Ebert awarded the film 3 stars out of 4, praising the film as art crossed with anthropology with a painful underside. And every review I got was just like people who liked it for whatever reason. And
Did it say when those reviews came out at all? Do you know?
when the movie came out,
When the movie came out? Okay.
the Roger Ebert one, the other ones are what it currently sits at on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic,
Well, yeah, because Rotten Tomatoes.
because those weren't around in 1993.
Yeah, I was going to say that wasn't around. And well, because you know what I mean? Like, whenever you're saying that rating, if it's Rotten Tomatoes and the rating came out in 2006, well, that's when Dazed and Confused was in every single household, you know, and a totally looked at differently than when it was released in the theater. So you got to look at those ratings as, you know, was it a positive rating when it first came out? Because it flopped, you know, in certain areas or whatever. If I don't know if you want to consider it a flop, but it wasn't a box office hit. So therefore, I think those ratings now completely make sense.
So now we get to move into fun facts and trivia.
And is this? Can I do 5 minutes real quick?
You need a 5-minute break before we roll on into that?
I mean, I could just step away too if you guys want to continue. It doesn't matter to me. I can hear and I'll be back. But
You need a break, Shades?
I'm good.
All right, well, we'll let
Oh,
Mr.
man.
Crude step away.
be right back, boys.
Baby bladder.
Not gone yet. Wait till I leave.
Oh, man. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey in True Detective was very good. Wonder what his upcoming movie is.
I don't know that I've ever seen that one.
There's apparently a series called Agent Elvis that's on Netflix that dropped in March. It's animated that he's Elvis. What? How have I never even heard of this? Agent Elvis. All right, I'm gonna have to check that out. Come Home? I don't even know what movie that is. It's animated. Sing 2, which sucked. Hank the Cow. He's been doing a lot of voice acting. The Gentleman was his last film. That was a good one. Did we watch that one together? That's the one where they're overseas and they're like, yeah, an American expat tries to sell off his highly profitable marijuana empire in London, triggering plots, schemes, bribery, and blackmail in an attempt to steal his domain out from under him.
Nope, haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's
Good though.
It's fantastic. We'll have to watch it. The Beach Bum. I haven't watched it, but I downloaded it.
I've seen part of it.
One of my favorite all-time movies from Mr. Matthew McConaughey. You got any guesses?
Killer.
It's coming. There it is. Surfer Dude. I love him in Surfer Dude. I love that movie.
I don't know that I've seen that one either.
Oh, it's fantastic. Willie Nelson's in it. Why you get goats? They cut, they fertilize. They cut, they fertilize.
Touche.
Yep.
It's true. Most of my ex-girlfriends are cows. But
Oh.
Wrong farm animal.
damn it.
All right. Well,
How many
that
udders
fun
did she
being
have?
said- oh man, she had more than two. That's something science needs to study.
Science.
And you know who our
Science.
resident scientist is?
Yeah. We discussed this pre-stream too. Shade's reading
Shade's is a
Adobe or
scientist.
using Adobe. Be amazed. But really, it's an optical illusion because if you look at it from a 90-degree turn. That was Shade's before stream.
All right. Well, are we ready to roll into these fun facts and trivia so people
Get
can
it.
have some kick some ass after watching this stream at Bar Trivia?
Yeah.
Got a new microphone stand, so I've been trying to find what I like setting it at tonight.
I'll watch a preview of it here after a while, Jeezy. I don't want to get copyrighted.
Let Shade see TD
TD
preview.
preview.
Yeah.
TD? What's TD?
Yeah.
True detective.
Oh, True Detective. Okay.
Yeesh.
Anyways,
Meow.
I'm a little
Yeesh.
dazed and confused right now. Let's roll. So, our director, Mr. Linklater, said that I really needed about 42 to 45 days to make the film. And the studio said, okay, you can have 36.
That's
He
a
said, everything I needed, I got about 80% of. I'm like, imagine shooting a full ass movie in 36 days. You're just on it, man. It seemed like it was a madhouse filming this. And like yes.
well. You got to think back then with the cars, all that kind of stuff. Like none of that CGI. You know what I mean? Like none. I mean, you had to do everything in proper time. So movies were shot way different back then. I mean, things took. I'm not saying CGI doesn't take time, but in my mind, it would take less time. I would think.
Well, that's what they're doing
Who
now,
knows?
which is why the CGI and all the Marvel movies are complete shit because they rush it and they overwork
shit.
the graphics departments. But
Yeah.
I don't know how long it generally takes to shoot a full feature length film, but like I feel like 36 is like fast.
Yeah, I mean, when I've heard about movies, you know, they were saying we were on set for 6 months, you know, or on set for 7-8 months, you know, and that's people going away and coming back. But like, you know, when your scenes need to be shot, but you hear about movies getting shot over months, not
Right.
a month.
I mean,
Like that, I
Tapehead
don't
was
hear
shot
that.
pretty decent time, but
Well, sort of. I mean,
they just finished
it's-
wrapping their scenes recently.
yeah, it's been shot in like sections.
Right.
Right.
So I Googled it. On average, Hollywood studio movies are shot within 30 to 120 days, with outliers falling below or above this range.
It's kind of crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, something like Avatar takes like 10 plus years to even conceptualize and rip off other films. So
A lot of film watching, all right? It's a lot of other film watching to get their movies, okay?
but like I stated, the director and producer
bro.
almost got into fights several times over the language and different decisions in the film. His 2-week assessment had a note to Jim, the producer. Whether this is an okay movie or a great movie, your job is to enable me the room to make a great movie. 2 weeks in, I am making a compromised piece of shit, followed by an incredible cinematic underachievement. But in the end, he said, looking back, he was lucky to have had the time that he had, or to have what he had at the time. And like, it's funny just looking back, like I stated earlier, the producer's like, trying to keep it on schedule for the studio. And the director's like, let me make my vision, you motherfucker.
Right. Don't you cut me short, you son of a bitch.
They were like constantly rewriting and adding things and taking things away, and it would delay the shoot.
Yeah, you think about it, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are actors who directors and things like that who have clearly made shitty movies that went on to make another one. But movies can make or break your whole career in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like, or even at that point. So if they're like, man, that was a shit movie, we're not going to call that director. You know what I mean? That's your resume. Right. So, and people don't know about all that stuff. Like, oh, I was given 10 days to make this happen, or 20, you know. So
right.
They're like, oh, well, we want the director that got 30 days and still made a great movie. We want that. And then if we give them 120, oh, how great will it be then? You know, like, so yeah, you got no choice but to be pissed off when you're in that situation.
Yeah, and like he was saying in the making of, he was like, I'd rewrite something or add something, and then it'd be lunch by the time we got everything together and ready to shoot, and we hadn't shot anything yet.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean, you think of how much we talked about, how much improvised and all that stuff that it was like. They probably shot something and then they're like, you know what would be cooler? It'd be a lot cooler if it was in here.
There were scenes where he's like, these are very crucial, and then it's like they got cut down or cut out entirely. Like the scene between Simone and Darla, Parker Posey and Joey Lauren Adam, that they kind of had to sneak it into production, he said, but he's like, it survived many cuts, but ultimately got cut because the film was too long. He said it was painful to drop that scene from the movie. I could imagine that, giving your actors the chance, these new girls on the block, to create their own scene together because they become such friends, and then you ultimately have to scrap it, would feel terrible.
I'm always so, like, I understand the idea, but I'm always so weirded out when I hear stuff about, like, we had to cut this because ultimately it made the movie too long. There's like 4-hour movies now, so what?
Well,
creates
now,
that time?
I mean, there were
narrative.
Like 2-hour movies were not as common until as of recently. Well, I mean, like, yes, they existed, but like they weren't as common as they are now. And now you got movies pushing 3-4 hours. You know, I went to John Wick 4. It was nearly 3 hours in the theater.
Oh my gosh, bro! Can you imagine
Lord of the Rings extended cuts. They just re-released it for the anniversary of Return of the King in theaters, and it outsold everything that weekend that was in theaters. But it's like a 4-hour movie.
They have like Lord of the Ring like beanbag watching, where they watch all of the Lord of the Rings all the way through or whatever, like in a giant room.
I want to do it so bad. Beanbags. It's been ages.
Yeah, in like a theater, they just take out all the seating and put like beanbags and shit in there for people to sit on, and they watch that whole thing. That'd be insane, dude. That'd be awesome.
It's dope. Yeah, DGG said long because he went and saw John Wick as well. He goes, it was good, but it was so long.
Bro.
But yeah, he said the first cut was 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Well, and I guess what you're thinking there is VHS. I forget that probably was like what fits on a VHS at the time.
Right. Like Titanic was 2 tapes. There were a series. I remember having tape sets, and my grandpa had tape sets that were like multiple cassette tapes or VHS tapes to watch the movie. Right. It's like, this is the first part's over. Please insert the next VHS.
Right. So they're like, hey, if you're not making a 3-hour long movie that's going to be 2 VHS tapes long, you need to cut this down to fit on 1 VHS tape. Like, I could see that being a thing now. Yeah.
You had restrictions for the physical medium.
Yep.
It became more expensive to have to produce double the tape.
Yeah.
For one movie. So like, it makes sense, but then it's like I always like having when you can like see the theatrical cut and then have an option for a director's or extended cut. And so you can give people the choice. And I think with digital, becoming so mainstream, even though like we like physical media, it gives you that option a little more easily because you're not making extra, like it's digital,
Right.
so you're just like it's just taking up a little bit more space on a server somewhere. But
Yeah, because
as I
if you're
stated,
telling me that like you cut a bunch of scenes from a movie and I don't get those scenes now just because you have to put it on a VHS versus a digital thing, give me the material and put it digital. Like if that's the options.
it's like it's always nice when there's like deleted scenes to watch, but you know that's not all of, you know, that was just whatever they deemed worthy of putting on there, or that wasn't lost or whatever.
Right.
That's one of my most difficult things still as an editor is editing out stuff that, because I'm like, for me it's like that tells more of the story. Like I want more of this in there. Like filming all this stuff for the draft, I'm like, I'm not gonna need probably 98% of what I've just filmed, but I'm trying to get better at finding out what to cut down, what to leave out, what should stay, and it can get difficult at times, especially when it's your project and you're like, but I want this. This is part of my vision, but no one's gonna watch a 5-hour YouTube video about the NFL draft, you know? No one's gonna watch a 5-hour cut of Dazed and Confused. Well, they might, giving the subject. You might fall asleep watching it.
I was gonna say I have an
Or go into a
ex-girlfriend
munchie
who
coma.
Fall
is
asleep to
insanely
my
in this
voice.
movie. Yeah.
But
Mom.
like I stated, the studio fucked the distribution, shrank the release because they didn't believe in it, which is what led to, it's like after all of this stuff, you're still fighting the studio with the release. But something that was cool about the director was he said he was very conscious, or tried to be, of the younger actors. He wanted to make sure this film didn't screw up their life. He's like, he felt protective of them and didn't want this to become a negative experience for them. Because how many times have we seen that with child actors? Like, hey, we're working with a lot of kids here. We need to make sure that this doesn't screw anyone up if we can. I don't want to feel responsible for fucking this random kid up we picked off the street to act in this film.
Right, and then now everywhere he goes, his face is known. Oh, you're that Dazed and Confused kid in that stupid movie.
Like, we're not gonna have to dive into it too deep, but we all know, you know, like how Hollywood is, and it can absolutely wreck you, especially if you're a kid. So it's nice seeing that there was a director who was very conscious of that and didn't want that to happen. So it's pretty cool. Apparently, reportedly, 1/6 of the budget was spent on acquiring the rights to the music.
I can believe that.
Six
That's
of
what I was
the
going to
budget
say.
went to
This
the
movie
music.
has a lot of hit music in it. That was a hit even during that time period. So to get that in a movie, I'm sure was very difficult.
And you know what else was difficult was getting smacked by those paddles. When the kids were building the paddles, the sleeping teacher in the shop is an actual teacher at that school who apparently, at the time of posting this fun fact online, still worked there. A fun fact about, not so fun fact about Matthew McConaughey, as his father died early in the filming, and they shut production down briefly to help arrange and attend the funeral. Also, his character Wooderson is actually based on his older brother.
Nice.
And now we stated earlier how Kevin, the house party dude, and Jason London didn't get along. And at one point, there was a fight between them. That fight changed the ending of the movie, which was going to feature Pickford instead of Matthew McConaughey's character, Wooderson. And it also explains their, almost total lack of dialogue despite sharing several scenes. So originally, McConaughey wasn't even going to be at the end of the movie and give the speech he gave that became impactful for his entire life afterward. It was originally going to be this other character, but because they got into a fight, it changed everything. And in that speech, he's talking about Just Keep Living, which is the name of his production company, JKL Productions. Which is really cool. Another fun fact about Matthew McConaughey is although his character still hangs out with high school students and was supposed to be older than the rest of them, he was actually younger than several cast members playing teenagers, including Sasha Jensen, Joey Lauren Adams, and Parker Posey.
Huh. He looked older.
Now, here's a question. You know, we talked about it with Mr. Dutson Matson on his Tapehead interview that, you know, they used movie cigarettes because smoking real cigarettes was not a great idea. So do you think, you know, most movies use fake beer? Do you think this movie used fake beer or real beer?
I mean, it's got to be
I don't know.
fake. It's a movie.
The beer drunk by most of the cast, excluding the minors, was real. Jason London refused to drink on set and was trying to stop smoking at the time. But they were actually drinking beer if they were of age, which is hilarious.
I wonder what the reason for that is.
I don't know, but now it's fun to know.
Maybe because he wanted it to be realistic, you know, like, hey, if you can actually be drunk, be drunk. Remember your lines.
And they initially wanted to use Lone Star beer, as the beer of choice being drunk by the kids was Lone Star at the time, but it demanded high fees, including a small percentage of the film's profits, so they used generic instead.
Bummer.
Oh, and then Lone Star probably missed out completely. See,
Yeah.
that
Bet
takes
they
me
regret
back
that
to
now.
the bands that weren't like known until their song was on an EA game, you know, whether it was
Right.
Madden or whatever, or Need for Speed soundtrack. Like, I think more people should fight to get their song on those things in a movie or in a, you know, instead of being like, oh, if you want to use it. But I mean, that's the difference between, oh, my beer's already established, or my song's already established around the world, or it's already here. But like, if I were just kind of like a small time beer maker or a small time musician or something like that, that's where I would want my song to be, or want my beer to be. I want my beer to be the front line of a movie or whatever. I think it's
Right.
not a good ploy to have to not be used. You know, basically, you give me a thing to
Product
pay for
placement.
the beer, and I'll put it in the movie. But you know, it is what it is. I think it's missed opportunity though when you don't put your beer in front of audiences, no matter how you do it.
Right. So, how many times do you think the word man is said in this
Oh
movie?
my gosh,
Oh,
3,000,
man.
4,000.
Does Chet have a guess?
At least 300 to 500.
Crude?
3,000.
203. 203.
Oh, well.
That's still a lot.
Well, if it would have been the theatrical version, the director's cut, it would have been 3,000. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right.
You think you could take a drink every time they say man?
Oh, man.
Yeah. You take a drink.
So, you remember those Kiss statues or the Soldier Memorial statues that Mila Jovovich adds Kiss makeup to? Well, originally, they were supposed to be featured more prominently in the movie. There were several scenes that were filmed from their theft to their confiscation by the police. Some of these scenes were included as DVD bonus features, but several have never been officially released. Shortly after the movie's release, Gene Simmons reportedly purchased the two statues for his private collection. He later sold them at the Butterfield's Kiss auction in 2000 for $6,000.
Funny.
Another fun fact about the props used in this movie. I don't know if you paid attention when they were leaning up against the pool hall wall, but Randall Pink Floyd's belt buckle is actually a pipe. He takes it out, hits it, and puts it back on his belt buckle when they're standing in front of the Emporium.
I did not see that. It's funny.
I had it in the intro, so if you go back and watch the intro, there's a scene where he picks it up and hits it. If you go back and watch the movie now, you'll notice that he pulls it off his belt buckle, hits it, puts it back on.
It's funny.
While filming in Texas, Mila Jovovich and Shawn Andrews, who were dating in the movie, eloped to Las Vegas and got married. Jovovich was only 16 and her mother had the marriage annulled. The previous year, she played Charlie Chaplin's first wife, Barbara, in Chaplin, and was 17 when she married 29-year-old Charlie Chaplin, who was subsequently tried. Our buddy Mr. Roy Cochran, Slater, who had the long hair, was actually a wig. And he said he'd never had long hair before. And despite the cosmopolitan atmosphere of Austin, he still got a lot of strange looks from people outside the movie set. Also with Mila Jovovich, despite being featured on the posters, most of her scenes were cut. She got so upset about it that she decided to take a break from acting and focus on her music career instead. Then she returned to acting after being cast in The Fifth Element. So basically she did this, got pissed, did nothing but make music that didn't go anywhere, and then got cast in The Fifth Element, and it was history.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you're pretty established after doing Fifth Element.
Yeah. Bruce fucking Willis.
Now, our little guy, Mitch Kramer, when he was cast, he lied about knowing how to play baseball and how to pitch. He said, I have never touched a baseball in my entire life. He couldn't catch the ball from 3 feet away. The little league team of extras that they hired for that scene were all mocking him during filming. He said the writer, producer, and the director had to get a double to show him from the back during the pitching scenes because he couldn't pitch the ball.
Not even him pitching.
It's not because he couldn't do
Oh,
it.
man. That's hilarious. Like, you want to be in a movie? Yeah. You know how to pitch? No. Or yeah. Baseball. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I do that when I sleep.
Absolutely hilarious.
It's fucking funny.
Now, I should have mentioned this in the music section, but Led Zeppelin, of course, recorded a song titled Dazed and Confused on the album Led Zeppelin 1, released in 1969. There's a subtle reference or homage to Led Zeppelin in the movie. In the scene where Don Dawson, Sasa Jensen, gets Benny O'Donnell, Cole Hauser, out of woodshop, just after Don got Ron Slater's attention to signal Benny, listen for Slater's line. Man, I ain't believing that shit about Bonham's 1 hour drum solo. I mean, 1 hour on drums? You couldn't handle that shit on strong acid, man. This is a reference to Led Zeppelin's drummer John Bonham, who would frequently perform extended drum solos at concerts.
All right.
According to Jason London, him and Roy Cochran smoked a joint before their final audition to get into character. Study high,
fair.
take the test high, get high scores.
Yeah.
The film producers initially wanted to use, I already talked about the beer. Mr. Ben Affleck, did you know that Mr. Ben Affleck got hurt on set?
Did they drop a bucket of paint on him?
After they drop a bucket of paint on him, when he goes back to his car and he swings the cricket bat around. It hits him in the foot. It shattered his ankle.
Oh
And finished
man,
the scene. He finished the scene and got into his car after shattering his ankle.
he like
That's crazy.
slips. I noticed he slips on the paint, and I'm like, whoa, he about busted his ass in that movie.
Yep.
Huh.
That's fun. That would have felt fantastic.
Well, because he looked like when he slipped, it still hurt. I didn't know it was that hurt though.
So Matthew
Crazy.
McConaughey's infamous line, all right, was improvised. He got the
I didn't know
idea
that.
from a recording of Jim Morrison saying, all right, 4 times in rapid succession. The scene where he flirts with Cynthia, Marissa Ribisi, was shot on the evening after McConaughey's costume fitting, and he was not supposed to be in the scene at all originally. Writer, producer, and director Richard Linklater put him in the scene after enthusiastically approving of McConaughey's costume and started reasoning with him if Wooderson could be attracted to someone like Cynthia. So that wasn't even, he wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't even written or in the script. It just happened. And it's iconic.
Through that, can't go and think about this movie without even that.
The last 2 fun facts I have also deal with numbers. When Mitch Kramer speaks with Sabrina in front of the Emporium, he grabs his nose 13 times. I don't know why that's a fun fact, but it is.
13 times.
You know why? You know why he touched his nose 13 times?
Because he's a child and doesn't do booga sugar?
All right.
I mean, there was already smoking and hanging out in coffee shops, so I mean, yeah, he definitely wasn't doing booger sugar.
The cocaine.
He does
You know
though,
what,
and
no
it is
part of this
noticeable in the movie.
Yeah, does grabbing his nose. The word fuck was used 59 times throughout this movie.
What's the runtime on this?
It's like a pretty regular length movie.
Hour and a half.
Hour 20.
Yeah.
Fuck.
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 Yeah. All
We'll
the
beat it.
details I've got. Like, besides from now just discussing the movie, like in general, you know, like, I think it was
Yeah.
really interesting that, like, you know, that the hazing is just like, that's just a rite of passage in this town, you know? Like, the adults are like, except for the one kid's mom with the shotgun, everyone's like, yep, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go through it, and then you get to do it to other people.
Letting him make the paddles in Woods class.
Right? They're making it during class.
Well, and he was like making a bong in Wood's class. Like, I have no doubt that there were teachers
Yeah.
like that somewhere that are just
Too
like,
much air. Not enough air, man.
"It's too much air. You got to seal that up, man."
Take some gum
Like-
or something.
It just, you know, I mean, that stuff had to exist. I mean, that was a timeline thing, I think. And because it probably wasn't very long before that, or even took place then, where kids used to get paddled by teachers and principals and things like that. So
Right.
it's not like it was that far from stuff that just happened. Well, instead, the teacher's
Well-
like, well, we can't do it. Seniors, beat the freshmen. Like,
Right. Can you let us out early? No.
yeah, that's the best way. He's like, no.
But it's interesting to see how things have changed over time, and like that's not a thing anymore. Hazing's not a thing anymore. But like what was interesting is like they had to all go through this, and then certain ones like rose above it and then like was hanging out with everyone afterwards, and like you kind of like made something out of some of these kids versus the opposite of the one kid that was like running and hiding that got away like the whole movie.
Right.
Like his whole night was spent in fear running from people, whereas the other guy got paddled right after his game and then was hanging out with the cool kids the rest of the night.
Yeah, he just hung out and got a crazy night he'll know for the rest of his life.
Right? So sometimes adversity builds character. Who'd have thought?
Weird.
I fucking hated high school. I was out of here as soon as I could be, and I moved clear the fuck to Atlanta. I was done.
I'm out.
So maybe that's why I wasn't such of a favorable view when I first watched this movie. But looking at it now, it's like, oh man, this is a great movie. Like, first,
I'm glad
you know,
they got like an upside on the senior, like the whole part where he does pour paint on him and stuff like that. Like, I'm glad that was in there.
That was pretty cool.
It would have been a little, without that, it would have been a little shittier, I think, because it's just basically them just beating the piss out of him and them doing nothing but accepting it. You know what I mean? Like, it just
Right, and that was like the one guy who was still hardcore set on doing it. Everybody else was already like moved on and ready to party. Like, come on, man, we got better things to do.
Right.
He's like, no, this one got away.
So, dude, the other thing besides like hazing and stuff, like back before the internet, the whole breaking when I said of the mailboxes and stuff like that with the trash cans and all, I know that stuff still existed when I was a kid. Like,
Oh yeah,
small time vandalism, I guess you could say.
that's a federal offense.
Out of 7 years, so I can no longer be trialed. But but the part I loved in the movie though, where he's like, "Throw that bowling ball," and he throws it through the back window. They're all like, "Oh, oh shit, man!" Like,
and
the
that
guy with the
chased
gun?
him down. Yeah,
the
he
guy with
chased
the
him
gun, he's
down.
like, "Dude, I paid for the beer, man." Like, he's like, "You broke my mailbox, didn't you?" He's got that gun. But that goes to,
That's a federal offense.
I don't know how, this town must not have been very big in the movie, and there must have been like what, one cop in the whole thing, because I mean they're like chasing high-speed chases down the roads and shit, and there's nothing. You couldn't do that.
Different time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the cops at the end are talking to. How did I mess up the description on the live?
I will go to say, I won't tell who it was, but somebody at my dad's age limit, they used to mess with a cop in where they lived in their town. So they would actually like fly by him and stuff and get in little chases, and then whenever he'd figure out if he see him, he's like, "Damn kids." Well, this guy was like letting his arm hang out of the like trunk, and they were running from the cop, like make it look like a dead body or something. They ended up going over a railroad track, and the trunk like opened and slammed shut on the kid's arm, and it broke it. It broke his arm, so they got in like huge trouble and everything. But I'm just saying, like the 80s, like I think that really happened. Like they messed with the cops, and you know, it was like just a thing that small town places did, I guess you could say.
Well,
The
like the cops
entertainment.
know Matthew McConaughey's character. Like they almost went to school together or something, you know, like at the end there. And it makes like them chasing people around thinking they took the statues. You know, they just kind of show up at the end because they're on the football field. But originally it's because they've been chasing them around all night trying to find who took the statues.
That's funny.
You have any other thoughts or comments on this movie, Shades? Things you like, dislike, stories?
No, sir. That I can think of.
Our resident man of many words.
Adobe.
Sometimes.
Adobe. If Adobe's up,
Oh
what's
man.
Adobe say about this movie?
But under the depression state of the making of the movie, it probably shouldn't have been made. But it made through broke even, and on VHS it climaxed. You're welcome. That's my impression of
Well,
Shades before stream.
It was fantastic. It sounded just like him. I thought he was talking the whole time.
I thought so too.
Anyways, you guys got anything else to say about this movie? It was a blast. It's definitely one that I have a lot more appreciation for than I used to. And I definitely recommend watching the making of if you're interested in this movie. It's interesting seeing, how the sausage got made, so to speak.
Ah.
Well, that was Dazed Confused, ladies and gentlemen. Unless our chat has anything they'd like to ask or discuss about this movie. Upcoming things, I will be putting together a draft experience video. I don't know when it'll come out. I've got way too much to sort through, but I will get through it at some point. I plan on going live tomorrow to play Jedi Survivor, but the PC port is apparently an absolute train wreck, and people are barely getting a consistent 30 frames per second, if that, on the highest of consumer hardware. I downloaded it. I haven't gotten to launch it yet, so we'll see. If I do, it'll be impromptu. If I can't play it or it won't stream right, then we'll just see you back Thursday night playing some high seas, Sea of Thieves sailing. How does that sound? Does that sound good?
Wondering.
Next month, we will be having our 4-year anniversary. It's been 4 years. Can you believe it already?
It's crazy.
3 years? It's been forever, man. It's been a while. But we'll have a fun stream that night. We're 6 subs away from 350 and doing that salsa that night. So help us get those last few subs. Do you guys have other things you'd like to say this evening before we bounce on out of here and we show off that fancy outro video?
I just can't wait to see the burn. So let's get them there. Let's get them all there.
Jades, any closing words?
No, because what I want to say doesn't pertain to any of this.
Well, I think there's one lesson that we can take from tonight, and it's this. Nugs, not drugs. Everybody have a wonderful evening. We are Cyber School Media, and we are out of here. Peace.
Man, it's the same bullshit they tried to pull in my day. You know, if it ain't that piece of paper, some other choice they're gonna try and make for you. You gotta do what Randall Pink Floyd wants you to do, man. Let me tell you this. The older you do get, the more rules are gonna try to get you to follow. You just gotta keep living, man. L-I-V-I-N.
All I'm saying is I just want to look back and say that I did it the best I could while I was stuck in this place. And as much fun as I could when I was stuck in this place. But as hard as I could when I was stuck in this place. Dogged as many chicks as I could when I was stuck in this place.